Welcome everyone, this is Pineleaf Needles and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at lasers and LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Senswinda
Hello.
and Guerendis.
Hello, everyone.
Now it's time for us to head into the news for this week, and we've got quite a bit of news because we have the release of Update 34, Before the Shadow.
Yay!
Yay! So let's see what they have in here. We have, first of all, Before the shadows lengthen in Angmar, forces of evil threaten the safety of the free peoples of Middle-earth. Delve into the mysteries of the One Ring as you embark on a perilous journey through Swanfleet and the remnants of the kingdom of Cardolan, encountering new friends and old ones. Adventure with Boromir of Gondor and combat the rise of the villainous Grey Fear before bringing word of the growing threat to Elrond of Rivendell, where a fellowship of heroes will be formed. Adventure through a new early leveling experience, take on old foes and reunite with old friends. Fight for victory against those who wish to restore the kingdom of Magmar in the latest Lord of the Rings expansion, Before the Shadow. And of course, you have all the obligatory link to where you can buy this if you wish to get it. So what did we add? We added delvings, and delvings are a new mechanic for debuting in Before the Shadow, where we have an overview of that in the link. And in order to get started, you log into the game with a character who has reached level cap on the server you're in, meaning it's 140 if you're on one of the standard servers, and it'll of course be whatever the cap is for Treebeard and Shadowfax. And you could find Before the Shadow missions NPCs in the camps of Andrath, Klager, Herne, Hlangaran, Tharbad, and the South Downs. There's also a new starter instance. Yes, a new starter instance is available for newly created characters for players who have purchased Before the Shadow. Create a character, select the starting tutorial Before the Shadow, and run the new instance, Mossward, the Border Village. And this is a new tutorial, so they've revamped how the tutorial operates from before. Like, for example, you don't have the person that you're introduced to at the beginning ask you to spar as the old tutorial did. But don't worry, you will get an opportunity to do some fighting.
May I make one comment about the new instance?
Yeah.
I love that you get through fairly quickly and you get your novice and milestone skill, because then you can be added to the kin very, very quickly, very easily. As a kin officer, I like this. Thank you, SSG.
Oh yes, that's right. Because instead of tossing you into an intro region,
where you end up having to
levels,
play through 6 or 7 levels, to get through.
Yep, you're dumped right into the main world, though in a new zone, as opposed. But it is, yes, it is now the main world. So that means your first quest is going to be at level 1 in this new world. And that's nice in there. Now you have 3 options on this selection thing. You either select the new tutorial, which is the one that which takes you to Mossward and then finishes you off at Mossward. Then the second choice is to go with the traditional tutorial, which would be your racial specific tutorial and then drop you off in Archet or Erluine. And the third option is to skip the tutorial, and if you choose to skip it, it's going to dump you into Erluine or Archet, depending on where. Yeah, no, it will drop you into the intro area, not to the main world if you choose to skip the tutorial, because it's assuming that you're doing the old stuff.
Well, that stinks. I guess
And
maybe not as much as it could, but changing habits.
I'm sure that you would like the option to skip the tutorial and go to Mossword, right?
Well, I mean, that seems logical, though I guess maybe I should ask. Does the instance Mossword, the border village, contain the same arachnids that the Hobbit tutorial does?
There are no arachnids in the Mossword instance.
You don't
Okay,
see
that sounds
arachnids
okay
for
then.
quite some time. There is an area that has arachnids, but you don't find it for quite some time.
Alright, I'm liking this area already.
In fact, I think I've only encountered them in a mission so far, so I don't think I've been into the area yet that has the.
It's in the store veils. Store
Oh,
veils?
in the Storevale? Oh, that's right. You're right. There was an arachnid area in the
You really have to
Storevales.
work to get there. They send you
Yes,
there on purpose,
but
but
I did. You're right. I did
Of
encounter
course,
that
they would
area.
send you to feed the spiders on purpose, but they really shouldn't.
I fed them my halberd, and they nibbled on my herald a little bit.
Good choice.
Slash you with your halberd, yelling Baruch Khazad. Yes.
I prefer to feed them arrows
Whoa!
most of the time, but not all of my characters carry bows.
There is a new skirmish. A new skirmish is now available to players who have purchased Before the Shadow called Doom of Caras-Celebrin, experience the Second Age and the fall of Eregion, and aid Celebrimbor in repelling the forces of the enemy. This skirmish is available to players 20 through 140 and can be played solo, duo, small fellowship, or raid. The new skirmish
Druids.
is...
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say Druids played it on LOTRO stream on Friday.
Okay. And I have posted... Have I posted that video yet?
Ooh, I'll have to watch Pine play it.
I think that's being... I'll check to see when that is scheduled to be released. It might even be released tonight, I think. I'll have to double check that before we go off.
Yay!
Anyway, of course, you do have to run the skirmish tutorial if you haven't yet. In other words, to unlock skirmishes in the first place, but it is accessible through the join panel as usual with skirmishes. And it is a defensive skirmish, so you'll find it in that list. And also, there is coming soon a new scaling instance. A new fellowship scaling instance will soon be available to players who have purchased Before the Shadow called Sarkforn the Black Grave. Explore one of the oldest barrows of Tir Ngorthad and face off against a powerful foe roused by the passage of the Witch King of Angmar. This scaling instance is available to players levels 20 to 140 and can be played solo, duo, or as a full fellowship. Once you have discovered the entrance to the hills of Carlin, oh boy, that's a fun place, air quotes, to discover when you go around in that area. Sarkforn and is accessible via the instance join panel. Sarkforn the Black Grave opens through Tier 3 difficulty at noon server time on Thursday, December the 1st. So that's the tricky thing there is, though, that it opens on noon December 1st. Now, I think they are planning to have a patch right around that. I think they're shooting to have a patch around that time that is going to fix all those little quirky bugs that they've been... Because, yeah, there was a bug or three that they discovered, of course, as usual, when you have a large update on there.
I'm hoping that the one bug that I think you're going to talk about after a couple of other entries here will be around for at least that long. That would be fun.
Yes. So anyway, they are going to go around fixing a few bugs, especially the ones that people want to be fixed. And in addition, so they have to have a patch out, and I think that patch, what they're are going to do, is probably going to include the Black Grave in there also, so that they could have that out, because it would have to be a patch by December 1st if they're going to have the instance open then. We'll have to see. Also, an important note, all class trait trees have been reset for update 34. If you have been playing and you're wondering why is your character suddenly weaker and lost a few skills, it's probably because your class trait tree has been reset. So, news and notes for Delvings. Access to Delving Stones. Yeah, this is a new system that they have, and you have access Delving Stones within any of the 40 new missions that are included in Before the Shadow to increase the difficulty of the monsters in the mission. Like, for example, yesterday when I was running one, I was doing it tier 1, and it was actually the one that I encountered on Bulwer, and that is the one where you had this poison puddle that does 7.5% damage to you every 3 seconds. So you're highly encouraged not to stand in puddles in that particular run, especially when you have 3 or 4 mobs around you dumping this thing on top of you. So yes, you have this thing to make it tougher, right?
Fuminori had mentioned in chat that he said, please talk about how the new delving missions are scattered all around.
Oh, yes. I think that is going to be mentioned in here somewhere, and they'll be actually probably mentioned in at least a couple other places. In fact, I even briefly talked about it when I talked about Delvings earlier, where I said that there are mission NPCs in Andrat, Klager, Hearn, Flangaron, Tharpat, and South Downs. They don't have the same missions. The missions are divided amongst those 6 places. They have a 3-day rotation where they go through in order. So yes, each day you're going to be bouncing around. Make sure you touch all those stable masters. And there is when you do missions in this particular area, they are one of the things that you can get, probably one of the easier things to get in there is a port to Androth. So you might want to get that port if you plan to do a lot of missions in that area. And then there are also 2 rep ports from the regular area where you can get also. So you can have.
Yeah, Hearn and Llangaren are the 2 rep ports, and they do have missions.
Missions also, yeah. So those are 3. So you have ports to 3 different areas that have missions. So that at least can be useful in there, and it's a single stable ride to the other places from at least one of them. Flangaron has a stable to Klager, and
well, if you go to Karanos, you can get to Skurlock Farm really quickly, even over the landscape. Although I noticed that isn't in that list, and that is someplace that has missions.
Oh, and I believe that farm is what they mean by South Downs.
Ah, maybe so, yeah.
Yeah, because that farm is in South.
Although that's not where the mission is. If you go on landscape, there's anyway.
What the
mission itself is set at the other farm, but it doesn't have a stable there. You go into the mission at the one farm, but yeah. Anyway, too much detail. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. Strange, little strange things. And anyway, you're going to be bouncing along 6 different locations in order to do all of the missions in there. It's not like the case of Trestle Bridge where you have all 10 of them right at one location with one NPC, or at Gundabad where you've all 37 of them are from the same 2 NPCs in this that are standing pretty close to each other. So yes, it'll take a little time in order to get around to each other at those areas. So let us get back. Oh yes, now that's of course for missions. Delvings, as we said already, they are a way to make the missions more difficult so that you can get some sort of rewards onto there. So you collect these gemstones that you put into this rock in there, and actually the standing stone that you put the gems into, I noticed that if you are below level cap, that standing stone will temporarily be visible until the mobs spawn in. So if you have one of those cases where you're saying, have the mobs spawned in yet or not? Because you know how sometimes you go to a mission and you're wondering, and if the mobs aren't in a place where they'll be easily visible from what you know, and you're not sure whether or not they've spawned in, you're a little afraid to go forward or not. Usually the standing stone being there means, no, they haven't spawned in yet. The trouble is, I sometimes have to move forward in order to trigger it so that they will spawn in and then before they end there. So it does make things a little bit tricky. But as soon as the mobs spawn in, I notice the standing stone disappears. You know, if you're below 140, that is. Or I should say below world level cap. So yes, there's quite a lot of here talking about the specifics about delvings and all that stuff. And this whole thing about take cracked stones, put them in. Now, please note that dread now spreads through any area that is affected by malice of tier 2 or greater. Dread. That means you're going to be
You're
needing
going to
hope
be needing
tokens.
resistance foods and hope tokens.
Yeah.
And scrolls. And
And
pots. All kinds of potions.
Yeah, that's sort of the thing. Because I heard one person saying that he went through 1.5 stack and a half of pots going through a tier 10 mission. So yes,
kind of impressive.
That is quite a lot. I suspect
wonder how many
I'm not
he
going
had
to.
with him.
I have no idea, but I think now I know why there is such a thing as a healing carry-all. I was wondering, why in the world would anyone need a healing carry-all?
Yeah.
And now I think it is because you're planning on doing lots and lots of these delvings and you're expecting to go through a huge number of pots.
Well, and why do you think they gave everybody 10 new slots for their shared storage? Because otherwise you're going to have 10 stones if you do all 10 tiers.
Right.
In your bag all the time.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Of course,
nice
let's not kid ourselves. Mine got filled up with other things that I needed to put in there anyway. I haven't done any delvings yet. I'm in trouble.
I was just thinking, I can think of 10 things at least that I need to store.
Inventory abhors a vacuum.
Right.
Yes. All right. Now, note that you can only do 10 delvings a day. So even if you do all, well, in that region, there are only about 11 to 13 missions that are available in a day anyway. So you're able to do most of them in order to get through there, in order to do them for delvings. Of course, you still do the rest of the missions just for the regular mission stuff, but I know that if you're doing it mainly for delvings, you might only do those 10. And also, choosing one delving quest locks out access to any of the other delving quests until you either complete or fail the one that you're currently on. I think that's pretty typical. It's like whenever I take a mission, it usually locks out all the other. Right, because usually I think the others all turn off until I actually do something with it. And monsters and delvings may display the ability to sense your presence at a greater distance and may call friends from a greater distance when they are engaged. I did notice that the one time I did run a delving, is even though it was only a tier 1 delving, I noticed those monsters seemed to be detecting me from quite a range in there. I was wondering why, but now I guess that answers the question. And that's pretty much it for delvings, unless someone else has something to add.
Well, like I said, I haven't really ran it. I have watched people playing it on Twitch.
Right.
I will probably dip my toes in the defiled stone waters eventually, but not yet.
Yeah, that's something to be. Yeah, maybe eventually you'll dip your toes into there. As I said, I've only done one so far because I've been doing a large amount of lower level stuff, and I've been doing a lot of the next thing that we have on here, and that's the new skirmish. We have a new skirmish called Doom of Kairos Geleblen, with the new defensive skirmish available 20 to 140, featuring a suite of new deeds and unique rewards. And in fact, I was running it today, and I actually had. Well, that's right. I was running it with a level 20 character, and I actually had a cosmetic drop during the course of the skirmish. An anvil, believe it or not. So I have to go and see what that looks like in my yard at some point. But yes, they have some unique words. They have some cosmetics in there. They have some equipment that could drop into there. And I noticed that the equipment is pretty good when you're running it in a full fellowship. I actually had a piece drop last night. This was tier 1 full fellowship that was better than a piece that I got during Hidden Horde.
Well, that's very nice.
Yeah, so that was very, very nice. So that was an upgrade for my warden in there. So that was nice. And they also can drop some things for legendary items. If you're solo, it's yellow enhancement runes and purple traceries. But if you're doing the 6-player one, it's purple enhancement runes and cyan traceries.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that was. Now, for me, though, that the cyan ones that dropped were ones that I think that I already had. So
It happens.
yeah, I already had them at the cyan level. So right, but that happens in there. But that's the thing is, but the enhancement runes, they did come in handy since a few purple ones are really nice on that. So of course you could run this so like any skirmish, solo, duo, small fellowship, full fellowship, or raid. I've so far done it solo and full fellowship. I haven't had an opportunity to run it in duo, small fellowship, or as a raid yet. And as a warning to you, this is not a casual skirmish. I mean, you get a hint from the fact that you have some pretty good rewards in there that it's not a casual skirmish. It's not something like Thievery and Mischief where you could take it nice and leisurely and all that stuff. If you're not careful, it's easy to get yourself squashed. And this is another place where you're going to need hope tokens. It's probably a good idea to bring a +5 hope token with you, just say if you ever do the skirmish, because dread slowly consumes the area in there is something that we noticed.
Well, I mean, there's a good reason for it.
Well,
story-wise.
yes, there is a
Not
good
gonna
reason.
spoil it,
Yeah, we're
but
not going to spoil that. Yeah, there's a good reason for it. It's very, very thematic that it's happening. But the thing is, though, is if you need to go back to some place in order to finish up an encounter, because one of the nicest times in which to do an encounter is after you've finished killing the boss, but before you go through the closing cinematic. And if you go out and do an encounter at that time, you're going to have dread all over the place. With my level 20 character, I did not have on that character yet any +5 tokens. All I had was a +1, the glass agrials, which is effectively a +1 token. So you could just imagine would have been like in there because
Oh
we
boy.
have this dread happening in there, and so I have just this +1 going against this +5 in there, and trying to find this mob because you got all this darkness and dread in there, and it's very easy to blunder into the enemy troops that are scattered all over the place because once the enemy takes an area, they station troops there. How about that? I know what a concept. So so the enemy's hold on the area changes as you progress through the skirmish, which also adds to the challenge in trying to find stuff and the like. So yes, +5 Pope tokens. Nice to know a lore master, or I should say a tinker who could make some for you, right?
Yes, this definitely is the tinker, the scholar, and the yeoman's update as far as like you might be able to make some money on the auction house just making these things and putting them out there in game ones on the auction house. You probably could make some gold.
Yeah. In fact, my runekeeper that is just the characters I've made here. My runekeeper is a tinker for a reason, so that I can be able to make some hope tokens, and maybe when I get up into levels and do enough crafting in there, maybe I could get to a point where I can make some +5s. And once you have completed Skirmish tutorial, Dumo Karis Calebrin will be accessible through the instance join panel, but it is recommended that you seek out Tarandir in the ruins of Karis Calebrin in Swanfleet before playing the skirmish. That's just a rap request that we could do around it. And in fact, when we were doing it on Friday Night Fights, the first time we ran it, we didn't think about grabbing the quest, but we decided to run it again afterwards, and then we all went out there, picked up the quest, and were able to finish the quest at the end of the skirmish. Character creation. An option has been added to character creation to allow the user to select their preferred tutorial experience. This UI replaces the checkbox that allows the user to skip the tutorial. I think we've already discussed that already earlier on there, that you can select which one you want to do on there. And they also tweaked the ordering because in strict alphabetical order, the first class on the list is the Bjorning. No, the Brawler, sorry, the Brawler, because Bjornings, only Bjornings can be Bjornings. The first class on the list is the Brawler. The trouble is the Brawler is a premium class, and they really didn't want a premium class to be on the top of the list. So they decided to move Burglars in front of Brawlers so that you'll have a standard class up on the top. I know there are a couple of classes such as Dwarves, a couple of races such as Dwarves that are still going to have Brawler on top, but it's better than having it over for everyone. Maybe if they could have named the Brawler something else, I guess it would have been better if they called it a Wrestler instead of a Brawler. Well, no, they punch things, so I guess they're not wrestlers. Randomly generated Stadax names will now be substantially different from those for regular dwarf names.
I'm gonna have to try that out.
Hmm?
I'm gonna have to try that out.
Yeah. And Bjorn prefix and suffix will no longer be usable by dwarves and stout axes. Or I should say it will no longer be used as part of the random generator because for some reason Bjorn should be associated with another race, right? And Brawlers now begin the game with cracked battle gauntlets, and Stout Axe players who purchased veteran status will no longer have quests from the Stout Axe intro stuck on them. The Nori thought maybe you should call the Brawler a tussler.
They don't want hugs. No hugs. No wrestling. They just want to throw things.
What?
I'm being silly.
Is
Brawlers.
No, I'm trying to think why Sam says that they got stabbed by Pineleaf.
We were joking earlier because he had made a comment about Pineleaf is here. Let's rush him, guys. With talking about the Delvings, and I said that they just wanted your autograph, and that's when Sam replied, "Guys, I got stabbed by Pineleaf."
Okay. All right. Understood. And for classes, class trait points have been moved away from the quests and deeds and are now granted directly through leveling. You will start earning trait points at level 2, and you will still have 98 points when you hit 140, and we will no longer be able to have more points than are usable. So that means now 98 points you'll have at 140, and everyone will have the same number of trait points as you level up, go through the levels. For some, that's good news, and for some people, that's bad news.
Well, if you're not a minstrel or a brawler, you're going to have 97 equipped. So, because even if you otherwise, those are the only two that can spend like single points in a third line. Yeah, like in a different line, because otherwise, like my hunter only has 97 equipped because she has the whole trait tree that she runs filled out, but you have to do 2 points
Yeah.
for all the others. So
Yeah, that is the thing, is that most classes have an odd number of trait points in their main tree, which is great. In fact, on a couple of the classes that I've already done my assignments on, I deliberately saw if was there a trait where I don't care about as much, where I could just dock 1 point off of that so I could but have 2 points to go into the last trait a trait on the other tree that I think is more important. And with the change of the way class trait points are acquired, all class trait trees have been reset for update 34. So you'll need to respend them. And damage over time and healing over time effects now display the interval every X seconds with a decimal point of precision in all tooltips. This corrects an issue with the Brawler's Pummel skill because apparently it applies every 0.5 seconds, and I guess it was hard to tell whatever it was, it was misleading. And now Bjornings. Blue line Bjornings can now block while wielding a spear as a primary weapon.
interesting.
Yeah. And Bjorning's skill Greater Beast Form will now be affected by Bjorning's dot pulses and swarm debuff duration traceries. And there's a lot of changes for brawlers. Pummel's channeling damage was not benefiting from dexterous strike or finishing attack tracery bonuses. Now that has been fixed. Latent light now properly benefit from trait buffs to light damage. I guess that makes sense. And they fixed several descriptions that they had in there. One for All now has a proper range of 15 for determining number of allies within range to affect the tier and buff players, placed on all players. Brawler skill One for All now displays the range of its effect once on its tooltips. But was it doing it several times based on there? And skirmish camp vendors now sell brawler weapons.
But
But what?
well, don't they give you that set that magic clicky item that until you get your LIs you're okay.
Yeah, but that's only once every 10 levels. What if you were partway through and you wanted something to tide you over until the... But you're right, it is a little bit less useful than it would have been if they didn't have that little box of gauntlets giving to you.
And now if they have cosmetics on those items that look cool, yay!
Well, I guess that's something to check. And now also, sentient monsters from levels 1 through 49 now have a chance to drop Brawler Battle Gauntlets when killed. I guess that goes with the whole thing. In other words, they finally added Brawler weapons to the loot tables. And as for the Remerhand Quartermaster, added in the profile for the Brawler for the armor that was missing, and slotted in the Brawler armor into the heavy tier class profiles in the Motes Exchange. Also fixed the order or the profiles so that things appear alphabetically. Now,
Woo!
yeah. Burglars!
Oh Lord.
Hide in plain sight can no longer be used while in coup de grace stealth or shared stealth. Previously, hide in plain sight would trigger but fail and go on cooldown due to the nature of these other stealth effects. So in other words, that's a good thing that they bar you from using it because it would be completely wasted at that time point. Stealth effects have been unified, and all versions of stealth will now benefit from skill, trait, or item bonuses, which improve stealthed skills or skills used under from stealth. Good. Sneak and hide in plain sight will both toggle on your regular out of combat stealth, which has a limitless duration. These should function the same as they did up to now. Okay. Coup de grace, cash out, and clever retort can now be used to enter into combat stealth. Combat stealth is essentially the same as normal stealth, except that it has a fixed duration of 3 seconds and will not be broken when you take damage. It won't stop NPC enemies from targeting you, but it will also benefit from combat stealth movement speed, which is now part of the footpath and Leafwalker traits. Let's see. So clever retort will be able to do that. See, because coup de grace is red line, cash out I believe is blue line, and clever retort is yellow line.
Yeah.
So there's one for each line then. Coup de grace will cause you to enter into combat stealth. When it is used, it no longer places a target on your enemy or requires you to target to die your target to die in the next few seconds. It simply causes you to enter combat stealth directly. And clever retort will cause you to enter combat stealth when it consumes trick dust in the eyes like cash out. This is in addition to its previous existing effect. So, alright, so if you have dust in the... Oh, I guess it makes sense because if they have dust in their eyes and you a clever retort, then you enter into combat stealth because, well, they had dust in their eyes, so they're having trouble seeing you. And
That makes some sense.
Yeah. Cash out will cause you to enter combat stealth when it has consumed a blue debilitating gamble. Cashing out a blue gamble will still stun your target as it did before. The stealth is an additional effect. I guess they are so stunned that they can't keep track of you anymore. Right. The baseline movement speed penalty from stealth has been removed. Any version of stealth without additional bonuses will have normal 100% movement speed. I think all the burglars are cheering over that one. The potency of... Yeah?
I'm cheering, except for the fact that I don't think my overall stealth increases that much because of the changes to the allies. But
Okay.
I do like that we're not slow immediately.
Yeah. The potency of the trace-free sneak movement bonus has been reduced slightly from 38.5% to 27.5% max since your baseline stealth and movement is 10 to 50% higher than it was before. Now, for me, though, since I tend to run yellow line, I think, and don't have much in the way of stealth bonuses, I think I was normally at 50 to 60% speed whenever I was in stealth. So for me, it's a major improvement. Leafwalker now gives you a plus 20% combat stealth movement speed. Footpad now has a max rank of 4, and a max rank is plus 5 stealth level and plus 10% combat Stealth's movement speed. You can only purchase 3 ranks of footpad in order to start spending points in the hidden dagger. Okay. Several skills have had their attack type redefined as range so that they will not erroneously trigger movement when movement assist is enabled in game options. This should not change the base damage done by skills or what tracery bonuses are affected by it, but it will change the type of incoming damage mods and avoidance that are checked. That's cool. And I'm only getting through about a third of these, it looks like. Surprise Strike positional damage tracery now clearly states that its bonus applies regardless of whether or not you are stealthed. Right? Double-Edged Strike is now earned at level 2. Alright, that's good. And Reveal Weakness traits now give you an additional effect. Reveal Weakness Blue gives you plus 3% mitigations. Reveal Weakness Red gives you plus 10% melee damage. And Reveal Weakness Yellow gives you minus 3% physical mitigation to your target. And Fine Footing is no longer an immediate skill. And Purge Corruption is now part of the critical response chain. It has a 5-second cooldown and will be unlocked by using Double-Edged Strike. Purge Corruption is also faster to use and deals less damage than it did previously. This will allow burglars to dispel corruption effects much more quickly and effectively on a single target, but at a significant cost of your personal DPS. Okay. Captains! Banner of Honor should now correctly reflect stat mods such as outgoing healing. An advantageous attack light damage effect now scales properly with weapon damage and is considerably more effective. Champions! The Champion Essence of Resolute will now reset fight on skills cooldown area AoE attacks. And when Horn of Champions applies a Force Taunt, it will now also copy Threat, like most other tank taunt skills. Embracing Attack was erroneously able to critically hit, causing it to occasionally heal for much more than it was intended. For Guardians, fix the tooltip for break ranks to indicate that the effect itself now has a cooldown rather than shield taunt. Litany Defiance will now properly prevent the building of fortification stacks that is affect the tooltip stated. Update the icon for Guardian Tenderize crit rating buff. Hunters! The Hunter's trait Archer's Mark now lists the correct debuff on the target. And traceries will now affect Merciful Shot even after the Swift Mercy trait set bonus is active. Lore Masters! Fix Inner Flame trait to damage buff in description and for accuracy. Critical Coordination now only consumed by skills which heal or deal damage. Wizard's Fire has been split into 2 skills, Wizard's Frost and Wizard's Fire. Wizard's Fire, a brand new Lore Master character, will now begin with Wizard's Frost instead of Wizard's Fire. And Wizard's Frost deals small damage and can be consumed a pet's flanked effect for a small heal. This is essentially what that Wizard's Fire had done prior to this. And Wizard's Fire is now earned by specializing in Master of Nature's Fury trait tree. Wizard's Fire now deals a small amount of damage over time in addition to its initial damage. And Wizard's Fire can now consume Flanked effect to restore power and grant you a short buff to your damage over time effects. An Eagle Friend is now earned by specializing in Keeper of Animals trait tree. And the trait Don't Touch Him and now has 4 ranks. Yes, and I know on Friday I was actually using the eagles in it at level 2. Summoned the eagle there because the bear is so big. And I tend to avoid using full-size bears. I know at least on one lore master that I have, what I did is I went to the class trainer and bought a tundra bear so that I could have a small enough bear instead of having that big, huge one that's in there. And that's when I'm doing that I did on Borer. I worked on it that way. And oh, that's right, my Langeville lore master uses a small bear for the same reason. Minstrels! The Anthem War Tracer modifier plus 10% Anthem War damage physical now reads plus percent Anthem of War damage, as this effect affects both physical and tactical damage of the ability. So in other words, it implied that it was only doing physical, but now it actually does all types of damage on there. Minstrel trait Discordant Ballads was erroneously applying an additional 5% tactical damage buffs at all times. Oops. The Minstrel trait Emboldened Finish now has a clearer tooltip on its buff effects. It's nice to have clear tooltips, I guess. The skill Call of Eoreth now properly displays a buff skill type on its tooltip. The D, the Light in the Dark, now correctly advances using minor ballad dissonance. And players can now benefit from Emboldened Finish and Inspiring Finish traits at the same time. Previously, the first trait that you put points into would prevent the other one from working. Runekeepers. Change description of the Runekeeper capstone trait Our Fates Entwined to more accurately reflect abilities. And on the Warden, the careful step duration and movement speed tracery has been updated to reflect the actual effects of the traceries. You know, I don't think I checked what they renamed it to. I better get around to do that at some point. The Warden armor of Durth Gundir 4-piece set bonus now provides correct 2 additional DOT pulses. The Recklessness effect no longer transforms your Gambit Builder skill into their old Reckless variants. Gambit skills are now labeled with visible skill type according to their first Gambit Builder, and the skill Hampering Javelin is now earned at level 2. And now there's a huge amount of stuff that was done with Monster Play. New emissaries from Angmar arrive in the Entmoors. The War Tyrant wants a word with all competence sworn to Angmar. This new introductory quest is part of the starter experience for Monster players, but available to all Monster players. All defenders of the Entmoors are significantly tougher. An old PvP rank 10 gear has been updated to have slightly increased stats. And forward camps are depopulated and access to the Ent Deep is now closed. Apparently they are doing repairs there and may open with a bright new version at some point in the future, I guess.
There was a cave-in.
There was a cave-in? Yeah, I guess that... Well, with all the fighting that goes in there, it's a wonder it hasn't happened earlier, right?
Well, I mean, some of the structures are, stone, but yeah.
A new quest in Monster Play is available that is given by the War Tyrant. Visit him and follow the story to earn clan blessing from the newly arrived emissaries to the Entmoors. These blessings provide a semi-permanent enhancement to your monster character, giving them a boost in stats no longer available in Corruptions. With the introduction of blessings, stat values have changed for many monsters and player traits. Corruptions now give significantly reduced bonuses, while racial and class traits have been adjusted. Most traits now give smaller ratings bonuses, though a few have increased. Alright, and the skill March has been increased to a 45% increase in out-of-combat movement to help in getting across the Entmoors. And all map skills to locations in the Entmoors for Monster Play have a shared 10-minute cooldown.
Which is why you have to run faster now.
Yes.
Don't like the trade-off. Prefer to have the map skills that we had earned. Anyway.
Oh well. Monster player potions purchased with combinations are now sold in stacks of 3 and weaker potions cost fewer combinations. Right. Player buff values from controlling Isodeep, Rimwood, Lagazog, and Tirathrol have been adjusted. And creatures in the Entmoors have grown stronger. Monster player skill power drain potency has been reduced. Maximum power debuff from latent poison potency has been reduced. And Troll and Ranger session play characters are stronger.
Ooh.
Quests and instances. The quest tracker and quest guide now accommodate up to 10 quests. And the number of quests I get in some places in Cardaland tells you why you need those 10 quests there, because I got into Hearn and I just saw quest rings all over the place. In Quest in Mist Hollow, who would live in Gazath Groper can now be cancelled. Quest in Strongholds of the North, restoring the Three Kingdoms can now be cancelled. The deed, Eglan, has been renamed to Kindred to the Eglain. No, was it? You're right. The quest, Warg Riders Loose in the Floodfells and Culling the Hunters can now be cancelled. Goblin Drums in Warrior, Drums of War, now have a proper animation after use. Now, I don't know if anyone's had an opportunity to test that out yet. The quest dialogue in the instance Shakalush the Stair Battle now properly displays the correct boss locations. In certain cases, defeating Krumgun in instance Honor and Treachery too quickly would cause the instance to hang. This has been fixed and the instance should play out normally, allowing players to complete it. Frozen Whites in a particular area in the instance of Sari Surma should no longer spawn over level. Thank you. Far Anorian Quest, Treating with Scoundrels, updated quest rewards to fit new ally system. Right. The rewards for March on Gunabad, additional steps daily, are now all usable on level 130. And now here's a favorite for a lot of people. Many session play quests throughout the epic storylines have been made optional. When you arrive at one of these quest steps, you can choose to complete the session play as normal, or you can interact with a shortened account book located nearby. With this advanced quest beyond the session play, you can resume the epic story. The following, then they give a long list of ones that are in there. It's pretty much...
It's some of the usual suspects, though. I mean, the ones that you're like, oh, do I have to do this again?
In fact, I'm trying to think, are there any session plays that aren't in this list? I mean,
I'd have to compare it with the wiki.
Because because these are all the ones that I can think of. So it looks like, but they said many, so that implies that there are one or two that aren't.
I understand why the last one can be a bit long, but oh my goodness, that is a really good one. You shouldn't skip that one.
Well, yeah, there are a couple in here that you definitely you might not want to skip.
Yeah, my suggestion would be if you're doing the epic story and you haven't experienced the story, at least do it once. If you're coming through for the 4th or 5th time and you don't want to do the Prisoner of Samath Bal, go for it.
Yeah, because I know that there are a lot of people who are not exactly thrilled when they have to, not the Prisoner of Samath Bal.
Although, in all fairness, if you think about it, that's going to be about as bad as some of the quests with the Misty Mountains, because you're going to go out there, you're going to interact with the book, but then you have to go back to Rivendell, but then you have to go back out and interact with the book, and yeah.
Alright. Classic instances in epic battles. While this has been the case for many instances over the years, the following skills are now uniformly barred from in classic instances in epic battles: Still as Death, Hobbit Silence, Desperate Flight, Hide in Plain Sight, and improved hide in plain sight.
You can't Hobbit flop anymore?
Not in an epic battle or classic instance. I think you could still do so in a skirmish, though. In addition, the following skills are now barred from use in classic instances and epic battles, set to group size of 12 players or higher. Roaring Challenge. Why is Roaring... is it... that sounds like a taunt skill, or am I completely off on that? I mean, why would they bar that
It's
from a raid?
a lore master force taunt.
I think it's
from
the force
bear.
taunt of the Lore Master Bear.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right.
So
It
it
is
is
the
a
bear
force
one.
taunt, and it's the force taunt that has made Lucky employ a super effective savior of the raid a few times. However, no longer. Sorry, Lucky.
Okay, so therefore we have Lucky to blame for this change.
Probably not. I don't know that his saving us from a few trash mobs has ever actually changed the course of the raid significantly enough for the devs to notice. But perhaps?
Right. They also adjusted the text of the instance Ziegelbert returned. And my guess is they finally decided what to say when he asked you, "Oh, how did you like that legendary weapon that you got?" And of course, the old version would say, "What do you mean you threw it away?" or something like that. So I'm assuming that's the adjustment was to take into account of the new legendary item system, since you no longer would have it thrown away when you do that quest. Into the Netting Glade has received a minor polish to have the interaction free the captives of the cocoons. Not that it's a quest that Sanswinda will go around doing. Change the name of the silent...
freeing people from cocoons does seem like the logical thing to do. But
Yeah.
I still don't like it.
Yes. Change the name of the Silent Street instance effect Fear to Terrorize to prevent confusion and better communicate that this effect is not curable.
Yeah, no kidding.
The quest A Little Extra Never Hurts Part 2 now grants the writing skill and a little extra mount instead of a battered horn of disruption. While A Little Extra Never Hurts Part 1 can only be completed once per world, A Little Extra Never Hurts Part 2 can now be completed on every new character in the Archit, Eredluine, or Mossword starting character areas. Now, this is my question. Does this mean that when you're in that area in the pre-burn version of Archit, that you could do this quest and get the writing to it, or is it still going to require novice trait in order to actually consume that?
This is what I want to know, because I'm hoping it means you can now ride around in pre-burned Archit, which would make it a little bit faster and more fun.
All right, I
think we're going to have to first science it sometime.
you're going to have to first. The trouble is that all my recent characters have done the Mossword area instead of the
That's what I
Archit
was
area.
just thinking but you could always just go to Mossword now. I don't know. I haven't been to Mossword yet, though.
Right. But now, what I don't know is what you have to do in order to run Part 2, because they imply that you have to purchase to unlock Part 2. I think it's like something like 5 or 10 LOTRO points or something like this. But the point is I've never been asked to purchase. I just went and did it. I was wondering, is it something that VIPs unlock the quest for free or something, or is it that's universally unlocked for free? But I don't know. But whatever the case is, if you don't have another means of getting the writing skill, this could be a good way to a way to which you could get that skill. And I can't see any reason now to pay the current cost, the old cost for the writing skill, because the old cost of the writing skill I think was 95 LOTRO points. And I think that even if you had to pay for part 2, I think that's only 10 LOTRO points because it's supposed to be the same price as the amount of LOTRO points that you get from doing part 1. So I don't sure what that's going to be about. Now, also the mount that they talk about, the little extra mount, that mount is a gray mount. In fact, it goes well with the number of characters I have. So I'm actually using that mount on a couple of characters. But the thing is, it's a slow mount. It's the equivalent of the Brie pony, which is something like 26, 36, somewhere in the around that area. So in other words, it's not a very, very fast mount on there. But since I have journeyman riding, that
I
doesn't
was
matter.
just gonna ask because I'd been wondering if it would be slow like that Brie pony, but so that answers it because we've got journeyman riding, so it won't be for us, but it is in general.
Right. And yeah, I did test it when I clicked on smell the roses. It drops down to pre pony level. As I said, it's a nice looking, simple looking gray mount, and so if you like gray mounts, then it's something to consider on that matter. And of course, under the right circumstances, it might even be free for you. Cloven Gap quest: Reclaiming the Gap. Agmarim will no longer increase the war kill count for the quest. Well, yeah, I didn't think that Agmarim were supposed to be wargs, but okay. On a mission weekly and on a continuing mission weekly, that was reset when they started it, because if you had it ongoing at the time on there, it would have been reset because they had to let's see, actually, on a mission weekly, continuing weekly, will have been updated to advance when completing missions in Before the Shadow. So because they added Before the Shadow to it, they had to reset your quests that you had in there. There were a number of updates to localization, and most of them are in German, though there are also a couple of French items in here. Now for general. Rewards Track Season 4 has started. And I looked at that when it was on Borrower. I did have a check on that. I noticed that 2 of the 4 specials are keys. So you have a possibility if you go all the way through getting 2 Black Steel keys through this, if you have any characters that are interested in such things. And I forgot what the other 2 items were. I don't know if anyone's got very far, because obviously I haven't gone very far in there since I've been playing mainly lower level characters recently, so I have not unlocked a large amount on the rewards track yet. So if I remember correctly, the last one I managed to get all the way through the track in about 50, I think, times, got that end one. Alright, let's go into there. Auto attacks can no longer advance skill deeds. This is part of a much broader optimization regarding how skills interact with the quest system. Why would auto attacks have ever advanced skill deeds, since you're not using a skill if you're using an auto attack, right?
Maybe it was some of the ones for critical things?
Oh, you mean that if you got a crit on an auto attack?
Right. But that still
Where did-
seems a little bit strange.
It still sounds a little bit strange. Anyway, the idea there is probably there were so few skill deeds that would be affected by auto attacks that they decided it was that by getting rid of it from there, they're trying to get rid of sources of lag, and skill needs advancement is one of those lag causers that they have in there. Barbershop costs have been significantly decreased across all character levels. Ranged extension tracery descriptions now have indications that it worked on skills with a base range of 15 plus. And reorganizes all word of mastery class effect tracery barter profiles so that they were by utility and role rather than by rarity. We'll have to see how that works on there, because I know that the way it used to be was a real pain, but the question is, how is it going to be when you're having them all together? I suppose then at least you can say, let's go to this area and see what level you can get. Because I know the number of times where I intended to go for the incomparable one, I accidentally hit the legendary button. So now I can say, hey, why is it grayed out? Oh, because I don't have the token for that. I have the incomparable token is what I had there. Elohim token recipe in the Ironfold, Minas Ethel, Gundabad tiers now require polished gems instead of raw gems. Makes sense. I mean, how can you bring out hope if you don't bother polishing it, right?
Well, and better yet, you don't worry about having to save some to actually make the item.
Yeah, you got a point there. It could be real annoying that you say, oh no, I polished them all! Yes. Crafted minstrel instruments now display the correct item level on the critical version tooltip. Items that disenchant to crafting materials no longer show a string table error. Oh, that's good. Alarm tooltip now indicates it can be crafted into a polished gem. And added max level values to some older set bonuses and reduced the max levels for set bonuses on lower level jewelry obtained in epic battles. Note this only affects set bonuses, not the items themselves. Housing items. The singing bowl of Tara Landali once again plays music.
I forgot they were changing that. I need to go to my house.
Yes. Wedding fireworks and golden wedding fireworks now play sounds each time that you use them. Tall variations of the Yondershire decorative walls can now be purchased from the Yonder Watch quartermasters. The Durance Day ambient environment will no longer break when hooked over server-determined cloudy, rainy, or stormy weather times. You mean Durance Day didn't work? It was rainy?
It did the whiteout. Remember when they had that bug when you were up on the mountain? If you were doing Durance Day, where it was just like this, the skybox turned white.
Ooh.
And it was evidently the in-game weather that was breaking it.
Oh, okay.
Which they fixed, but then for some reason it happened in the housing instances sometimes if you had that hooked in your yard for the premium houses.
Added a new barter profile to the legendary weapons class items barter NPC in Rivendell to have all of the barter profiles condensed and separated by class. Oh, yes. Yeah, thank you, because that was a real painful one trying to find, oh, now which one is my class? I think I eventually figured out they seem to be in that alphabetical order so that if you went near the end of the alphabet, you'll find the wardens down there. But it looks like they've made it a little bit easier to search now. The Host of the West Herb Master now has armor upgrades for the Brawler and for Throne of Dread Terror raid tokens. The icon for Ore in Hand from the Farmer's Fair has been updated. What'd they do? Change it to make it look like an ore or something?
We're going to have to ask Calabathian, because I think Calabathian got ores, didn't she?
Yeah. Some lower to mid-level gear have had their stats updated. Word order on Spiel wall deco items is now consistent. Pitch on some Orc Combat VO is back to what it previously was. Right? Critters in Gundabad can no longer be attacked by elves and high elves.
I never paid attention to critters in Gundabad. I was always too busy trying to dodge the things that were already trying to kill me.
Yeah, at least the elves don't have to worry about accidentally clicking on a critter when they're trying to desperately attack a mob, because that's always the real pain with critters, is that you accidentally click on a critter when you're trying to target the mob you're facing.
I mean, if Rain of Arrows takes out the critter too, sorry, shouldn't have been standing there.
Right. Several Yondershire interiors have now more appropriate ambience for their environment. Vales of Anduin. Bjorningars will no longer attack low-level players.
I thought they fixed that a long time ago, but isn't that what happened to Corey that one time when they were doing the field trip?
I think so.
Well, that could be a bit of a problem. Cliffs and rocks in the eastern pass from Tristlebridge now match each other. And rock appearances for Deep Beneath Gundabad should no longer escape into the rest of the game world.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because maybe that caused the problem.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Huh. You can have them match, but there will be a price.
There will be a price, yes. Rocks surrounding Garsfield should no longer take on different appearances. The Wild Spotted Donkey cosmetic pet is now listed and visible in the collections panel. Changed the name of Virulent Disease to Virulent Cloud, as well as gave the tooltip description saying, a miasma so potent that it cannot be cured. So they, of course, wanted to avoid the word disease, so you didn't think it could be cured. Removed barter profile for Relics Ally Wilderfolk from the Wilderfolk Rewards Quartermaster. Oh, of course, because there aren't any more relics. I think it's empty right now. So that's why they got rid of it. All right. Blood Cravan and formal Corgi pets are now appear in the collections panel. Fix the typo in the tooltip for Blazing of the Last Alliance and Mortar Besieged. The Stormhammer Goat mount now has the correct description in the collections panel. Yay! The Toffee Kid Pet Goat now has the correct acquisition information in the collections panel. The Malathrine Barter NPC in Mirkwood no longer duplicates categories online. Thank you, because it was always a pain going to them and saying, why do we have 5 versions of the exact same thing in here? Krumpug, an elite goblin boss in Azanun Bazaar, no longer drops obsolete legendary item loot. Okay, let's get rid of that. Yeah, so there are other things about obsolete things no longer being dropped.
Cleaning up the loot tables.
Yeah. The Warsteed skill granting item is now indestructible and now requires level 70 to consume.
Sorry, Sans.
Maybe they won't change it on Bull Roar.
I have a feeling that since it was in the Bull Roar release notes,
changed. But that's still mean.
I mean, why? In fact, Bull Roar is the only reason why I could think of actually implementing such a fix, because I think it's impossible to get it before 70 on the main worlds, right?
You know, I think so. So I guess it makes sense that you can't use it early. But I think it would have been more fun if they had implemented the fix the other way so that now you could use it at level 5. In the real world, too.
Yeah, that has always been your opinion on that matter.
True.
Changed falling injury effects to be less punishing. Changed run speed debuff from 40% to 30%. Changed duration of effect from a range of 6 to 60 seconds to 5 to 15 seconds. I think that could make Sans happy because it'd be less punish. Yeah, I know that you spend a lot of time probably with falling injuries.
Well, I mean, maybe. I typically I feel like I typically either like wildly overshoot or like manage to come through without an injury though.
All right.
So I usually I guess I do spend a reasonable amount of time with a broken leg though. So not anymore though. That's gonna be fun.
All right. The cosmetic item Ceremonial Great Club of the Delver now has the behavior, usage, and text of a two-handed weapon as intended. And the Crystal Grim attack, Jagged Shards, now has the correct amount of damage. Yule Festival cosmetic comparison, head and saddle appearances now cost the same for each barter vendor. Yeah, so you don't have to go around shopping at various vendors in order to find which one is the best one, I guess. The obsolete NPC legendary traders have been removed from Bree 21st Hall, Openview, and Lothlorien. They will no longer have map notes on the minimap. Yes, I think they had been removed already in the past, but they still had all those barter notes that you still in there, and you're saying, "Oh, is there a barter there?" Oh no, those are the old legendary traders that were removed.
I'm now curious though. There's one thing I want to check. I need to go check in Bree because for a while there they had removed one of the class barterers that was standing by like the arch heading down to West Bree, but their shield and weapon were still leaned up against the wall. And I wonder if it's still there or not.
Well, I guess a random shield and weapon sitting on the wall is.
It's like a little monument to those
A little
those of
monument,
us
yeah.
who remember LI's 1.0.
Yeah. So White Company Quartermaster no longer barters for obsolete relics, but instead for level appropriate traceries. Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Correction. It's 2 shields. It was where the warden barterer was, and they are still standing right here, or laying right here, leaned against the wall. Aww.
So barterable fish and earnable in the Farmers Fair Festival are not able to be affected by Fateful Toolkit. These fish have had their category changed from festival to miscellaneous to better reflect this status. Fish still go in the barter wallet and can still be bartered for appropriate tokens. Yes. The Volume 3 gift box no longer awards players with obsolete flawed symbols of Celebrimbor. Instead, it will award a level-appropriate, incomparable Shattered Tracery token. Alright. And fix the typo in the barter tokens for golden tokens of the Rittermark. And housing. In the Erebor housing neighborhood, property guards summoned from housing decorations will stick around to visit and defend the property instead of immediately disappearing again. Updated the description packages items for enhances runes times 3, incomparable, rare, and uncommon, to denote that sometimes these packages drop additional runes. Okay. And the Sleeping Brown Cat offered through the barter through the Harvest Mass Festival will now have the same price in both barter profiles. Yes. Consistency. Race changing to High Elf after having achieved friend reputation with the Galadhrim will no longer prevent you from earning the virtuous High Elf trait. And Filbert Fig has retired for the season as of November 15th, while Rowan Raspberry has returned to offer new and old cosmetics for Figments of Splendor. New cosmetic items available for Figments of Splendor include Hidden Peaks Avatar Cosmetics, housing decorations, a cosmetic egret pet, and Hidden Peak steed and matching war steed appearances.
Those new cosmetic appearances are really nice.
And the finely strung loot for the veteran minstrel and any future socketed weapons can no longer be placed into a carry-all. This prevents any socketed instances from being lost. So in other words, if it has sockets on it, then it can't be put into the instrument carry-all then. And the legendary item box found in the Valor level boost weapons packages and the LOTRO store will once again offers war steed bridles as selection items. Okay.
Well, they put in a new version, but you know, with the legendaries having been changed, they didn't have legendary bridles anymore.
Right.
But I would presume now that you don't have to worry about going and doing some questing to get enough tokens to get a bridle for your war steed that you get when you're Valard,
Yeah.
you can actually get him and not have to worry about it.
I guess that's probably the reason for it. Yes. Known issues. A capstone quest in Cardaland, Doom of Sarkvorn, will not be completable until the launch of Sarkvorn the Black Grape. Okay, that makes sense because so that means they have the quest already in place. It's just, of course, that until the instance is completable, so you won't be able to complete until December 1st then. Bags of copper, silver, and gold coins from the Vault Keeper NPCs cannot be sold to merchants. These bags will become sellable in the near future. So, yes, that's a bit of a problem if you.
Yeah, I had a couple of kin members that they would store gold in their vault by buying that so that if they made, say, a new alt in Mossword and could go to some place to actually access a vault keeper, they'd have gold easier without having to like alt to character mail gold over whatever. But yeah, they went to check and were like, um, there's
Oops.
no coin option, coin price option. I can't sell them. They're grayed out. They won't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So right now, the only thing that they're usable for is for buying delving stones. Then I guess.
perhaps, but that's not what they wanted them for. But
I know
fortunately,
that's
they're
not what
going to
they
fix
wanted
it.
for. Yeah. But and the landscape difficulty system in Shadowfax and Treebeard is erroneously applying in housing areas.
Oh no!
Trade enemies have been impacted by this bug and can cause damage.
Oh no! I mean, it's bad enough that I discovered I had a training dummy in my house and we were doing housing tours with my kin, and somebody who was low level was there and had went down in the basement to see what the noise was, and a level 140 character had started up the training dummy and they died because of the attack from the dummy. But having the Eye of Sauron also be there, that would be bad.
Wait, wait, the training dummies can cause damage?
Well, yes, evidently they can if you are in a raid or fellowship. We were going around doing housing tour. We do Street of Dreams for what Knights of the White Lady do and show off our houses and decorating ideas. And like I said, a level 140 character had started up the training dummy that I have down in my little dojo that I'd made in the basement of my house in Eastfold. And one of the level, I don't know, 38 or something, wandered down. They were taking a look around the house, and the jerk back reflex there, that training dummy going back and forth, just wink like that, and they there they went
Ugh.
dead. That was
Okay.
something we discovered and didn't even know, but yeah.
Yeah. Now let's head into our next item there because that completes the release notes. But there is also a developer diary on delvings, which talks about what a delving is, the rewards and raid gear, and of course the usual spiel saying evergreen system and all that stuff. We'll see how about that in 10 years to see if it's still around. And they're planning on supporting other systems in the future. Because right now, they only have right now it's only being used in the delvings in Cardaland and Swanfleet, so they hope to add it to more missions in the future. I guess I meant missions in Swanfleet and Cardaland. So they hope to add it to more missions in the future, then add it to the school and library, and then maybe to skirmishes and the like. We shall see. And that's it. So you can just read the whole thing. We have a link to the developer diary in the show notes. And then the other thing is another little bug that was discovered is the infamous, the mighty Hengstacer rock, I'm going to call it, because it's along the road between Bree and Trestle Bridge.
Yeah, north of the turnoff to Hengstacer
Right.
Farm. By the time you're getting to the turnoff, you can see it coming.
Yeah, you can see it coming by around the time you get to the turnoff in there. So you'll be about parallel to Hengstacer Farm when you're actually at it. So yes, it's, let's just say, large. Rock. Calling this rock is similar to calling Gibraltar a rock.
Yes.
Yes, in other words, the name has a little bit of an understatement within it, and it looks like it's turning into things like a performance site and all sorts of weird things. It's amazing how one little bug here attracts players to come around and have a look at it and do weird things around it. And now, of course, the devs are trying to figure out, now, what are we going to do about this thing? Because we got this huge rock now that is in the middle of the road. So, of course, it's blocking travel routes and all of that. So they can't leave it there. But now we have players creating petitions in order to keep it. So we'll see what they come up with. And that's it for our game news. So let's head into our store sales. Clarendis, what's on sale this week?
Well, this week, unleash your potential. Get 25% off loot box keys, universal solvents, universal morale and power potions, which might be handy going into those delvings, and deed boosts, which also might be handy for everybody trying to get their virtues back up to cap. That is now through November 23rd, and the weekly coupon is free +5 hope boost for 90 minutes. Also handy for those delvings. Coupon code is Boost of Hope, all one word, Boost of Hope, now through November 23rd.
I'll have to get that +5 hope boost on a character that's getting ready to run the new skirmish, since +5 is also pretty useful in that particular regard. And now we actually have a pick of the week. Where in this? What's this all about?
Well, I have been referring to this on and off. The developer diary is wonderful for going into details about delvings, and the notes about the release do mention a lot of things about the delving system and other various things, but Laura Linarian has an overview of Before the Shadow release that goes takes it a little bit differently and gives like step-by-step instruction, like go to this coordinate and follow the path that starts here to be able to do the discovery for the Black Grave, which is a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
Trying to find it otherwise. Yeah, I just really have been referring to this a lot when a kin member has any questions in kin chat, because there are a lot of nice little tips. Talks about any missions that they've experienced that have had any bugs. So until they do get all the kinks and bugs worked out and push that patch update, you might want to refer to this post, and the link will be in the show notes.
All right. Now, one of the things to note on this thing, because one of the things they do is list the treasure caches in the area, and that is that I think this is the first set of treasure caches that's actually usable by low-level players.
Yes.
So, yeah, that means, yes, you're a fresh level 1 character, and you can use a treasure cache, so they're usually in locations where you probably don't want to be if you are a level 1 character.
Think you have to be level 5 to use it.
Oh, level 5. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
because I was level 4 and I was trying to get that silly warg right outside of Mossward, and that was a thing in and of itself. Because we're used to, you follow the footprints that are glowing, and you got back there. If you weren't getting just right, the just right point, the deer carcass that you need to use to make the warg appear would not start glowing. The other problem was you could open tap and I started the deed for the Warg Slayer, but if you had not used that carcass, the quest would not forward. So I must have killed that thing 4 or 5 times and hit level 5 and went back around the wall and got the treasure cache that's in there. But yeah, I really hope that they fix that one little interaction, because you had to like approach that deer carcass from just the right angle for it to start glowing and work. And it doesn't work. There were several people there, and we were all standing thinking, okay, is it on a timer? Are we responding? This was like the very first day. And I threw out an invite to a couple of them, because thinking, okay, if we're in a group, maybe it'll count for us. No. So yeah, that one was a bit tricky. But yeah, you do have to be level 5, I did discover.
Okay. Very well, you need to be level 5 then. Now, anything else in this article that you want to mention?
Like I said, it's just it has a nice succinct little list of where all the missions are. It talks about a few tricky things, like you might read it before you're starting a new character in Mossword, because it like reminds you that there's one NPC that gives timed quests that you need to pay attention to. There was a fishing quest in Langaren further on in your questing that was a little bit tricky, trying to figure out exactly where you should be standing, even though it seemed obvious, for it to actually forward. That's nice. And it also has things for the in-game player too, though. It's not just, starting out. So, like I said, it's just been a really nice resource to be able to take a look at here. And they also have links to the official release notes and to Deco de Malu's site, because Yao has added the new floors and stairs that have been added. You can actually build structures within larger houses. You have stairs that you can use and floors. I thought that was very interesting, and also points you towards Fiber Jedi's site, which a lot of us love, and has a lot of tool tips for a lot of the essences you can get for the delving. So
All right. Then let's head into our week in gaming. And Guarendis, what were you up to?
a lot.
A lot.
The lawnmower, the Hobbit lawnmower, the champion, made it all the way through Moria to Lothlorien, and now has to explain herself in reference to Mazog and the choices that were made in Moria. She went from level 50 to level 66 in about a week and a half or two, and it really helped me power through the rewards track in time. But I cannot decide yet who gets the skeleton horse. So it's one of the things that I put into my shared storage to sit there until somebody goes to grab it. The new area is beautiful. Great job, Scenario and the team. It's gorgeous. Sunsets in Carlin are not to be missed, even if you're standing in the middle of a really mob infested area. They're still gorgeous, and unfortunately, a lot of the big structures that you want to go and look at the sunset on are filled with a lot of mobs if you're on level. But I helped out with the wiki, finding some information and sending it to Elda of like treasure cache locations that they hadn't found yet, and had a great time wandering around. Checked on the quest chain for one of the deeds. You actually have to do a quest chain to complete it in Cardalin. And yeah, so that was kind of fun, but just loved wandering around trying to find those treasure caches and enjoying the scenery on my 140. But I also have a level I'd wrote in the show notes 18. I got to change that before we finalize it. He's level 19 dwarf captain now, ready to head into Cardalin. Having a lot of fun, really enjoying the new area. Girls of Middle Earth last weekend went about in the Shire with bears. Can I get a saddle for the bear? For the Hobbit? I really want a war bear. Can we do this
Or there.
SSG? I admit I got my jeweler to make a wild paw token for the Hobbit, and at its shoulder it is twice again as tall as she is now, rather than the regular sized Lord Master Bear. I call the first one Ursa Minor and the new one Ursa Major, and I want a saddle for it because it's big enough to be a human horse, and I think it would be great. In ESO, I did spend a little time in ESO leveling my Argonian healer's scrying and excavation skills to complete the weekly, which is to scry for 20 things. I got all the yellow and purple things out of there that I wouldn't want to expire, that were housing items or leads for parts of mythic items on my regular main, but then went ahead and leveled things up in RTM, and I managed to stay alive in a Harrow Storm for the first time during the Heart of
Whee!
Skyrim on my main. Although that probably has to do with the fact that there were so many people standing there. It was almost like when Clockwork City was there, where you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna start spamming my caltrops and hope for the best. So yeah, this is a great time to clear out those Harrow Storms in Western Skyrim and down in the caverns if you haven't done it yet, because everybody and their brother is doing them right now for the event. Sanswinda, what did you get up to?
Well, this week, we quested with our Hobbit lore masters on girls, and we played some hide and seek to start it off, which was kind of fun. And there was a ghost problem that we took care of. Yeah, I think the only downside was not being able to ride the bears. And then I started last weekend also a Scorched Earth World and Ark with Cinders. And we managed to make enough adobe for a tiny house, and that was about as far as we got. And then Pokemon Violet and Scarlet came out yesterday, and so I played a little bit with Cinders and my nephew, and that was pretty much my week in gaming. How was your week, Pineleaf?
All right, I'll begin with my Legible Warden, who did several runs on the Karis Galibran skirmish, both solo and last night on Friday Night Fights. We had 3 runs that we attempted on the 6-player version. The first time, everyone was trying to learn the skirmish in there because I of course had been running it already, so I had a pretty good idea on how things went, but there were a number of people there who had never done the skirmish. And there are, of course, the usual adjustments that you have when you go to a higher size on there, because in the third assault, in the solo version, you go back and forth between 2 gates to defend them, while in the 6-player version, both gates are attacked at the same time.
Oi.
Have you run that skirmish?
No.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I've been in enough skirmishes where things in like fellowship version of a skirmish where things like that happen. It's just like
Yeah, so therefore you have two gates being attacked at the same time. That means you have to split the party with one group defending one gate and one defending the other gate.
yes.
So we're learning on how our best tactics go into there, and then during the end of it, trying to figure out how to split the party when we had all those groups coming in for the last two assaults, where we were being really, really, really hard pressed on there. So we managed to survive the first run, which was good. The second run, things didn't go too well on a second. Yes, let's run it again. And that time, things just fell apart for some reason. I think Celebrimbor managed to get killed or something like that. So that is, of course, failed skirmish when that happens. Oh, actually, no, it was one of the earlier, I think, defenders that got killed. But in any case, we didn't get all the way through that skirmish, so we decided let's try it a third time. This time, being a little bit more careful in what we do, and then we got through another successful run in that case. So we had 2 out of 3 in completing that skirmish. And I think we had fewer deaths on the third attempt in there. So that was all nice and going on to there. And that's right, on the third attempt, we actually got to see what the secret third boss was, because they had 3 different bosses that you could have at the end. So one's selected at random, and only 2 of them were on Bull Roarer. The third one, they decided to avoid spoilers, we decided not to include the third boss on the Bull Roarer. So during that last 6-player run in there, I finally got to see what this third boss was, and I think we'll hold off for that. I'm not going to go into spoilers on that for the moment, since it's too soon on the matter. So it was a very interesting boss that we had on that one. Now, I also created a new lore master, and I ran several quests in Mossward. And this is what I'm doing for my new YouTube series on there, and is following the life of a Hobbit lore master trying to learn the lore of the Shadows. So, of course, I'm starting in, of course, Cardolan and Mossward, and going through there. I've only got to about level 4 or 5 at the moment, because I had to go at the speed at which I could record things. Thus, I also created a Runekeeper so that I could actually go through the content at a playing pace on there. And I've got to level 22, I think. So I've finished up all of Swanfleet, and I'm say about maybe third or halfway through Cardolan at the moment, since I don't know what all the quests are. I'd say estimate that. I just reached Sarn Ford is where I just reached, so I don't know where that is in this whole thing. But I'm about level 22. I have done the skirmish tutorial, and I've run the new skirmish on that, so I was able to tell then how the skirmish runs at level 20, and I was able to get through that. Let's see, without too many problems on there. It would have been nice if I had some of the skills I didn't have yet, because I think I got a skill or 2 since then that would have made this skirmish a little bit easier, but that's the way to go. Let's say I got a lot of use out of that electricity stone, I must say, when I was doing that skirmish in there, because that was very, very useful in trying to keep those mobs distracted. And I give a warning in there is that this new skirmish is the toughest skirmish that's out there. It's definitely the toughest of all the skirmishes that are out there in there. So I only recommend doing that skirmish when you're in the mood for a challenge. Because if you just want a nice, relaxing skirmish, that's not the one to choose.
Go to Tuckborough, be a troublemaker.
Yeah, Tuckborough or Bree in Thievery and Mischief. And that is it. But we do have some news beyond LOTRO, and that is Darren Loremaster has a new article on here, another one of his songs, and it is The Retreat of the Noble. And this is to the tune of Everything But the Girls Missing. And this is done in 3 verses with a chorus in between these first and second and between the second and third. So that's the latest tribute song by Darren Loremaster. We currently have 16 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious raid of players and help support LOTRO players, you go to the donations page. You can support the players and alliance on Patreon. Your money will be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. And we actually have an email to squeak. Sans Window, what's in this?
Well, Farrellier writes, "Hello, faithful LOTRO players, podcasters. Enjoy your show. Been listening to it for several years. It actually motivated me to return to the game and level my Loremaster up to 140. Now that I'm at the in-game, and I and my bear are having fun destroying things with lightning, I have questions I'm hoping you can answer. What are the best ways to level up the rewards track? Is it just XP? So do VIP players level it faster because of their XP boosts? And does that mean it's better to run a low-level player or a high-level player to get reward track XP? I'm only 10 levels away from that painted pony. And my second question has to do with the new legendary item system. I have reforged my weapon and got all the traceries up to their max of 480, but each tracery says its enhancement limit is 499, not 480. How do I get it so the traceries will go past 480? I've got the runes I need to go above, but the traceries won't take them. The Forge Master just shrugs and tells me to go away, so it isn't a reforging thing. Hope you can help. And a third question. Is there anything end-game to spend all those skirmish medallions on? As a fellow skirmisher of Middle-earth, I'm drowning in the things, and I visited the vendors at the Bree Gates, and couldn't find anything past level 100 to spend them on. Suggestions? Maybe there will be things to spend them on after the expansion hits? From Farrellier, Loremaster and listener friend.
Alright, let's go through them one at a time.
I can speak to this first one.
Okay.
I discovered that if you get a character that is just starting Moria, so if you have a level 50 character or 45, depending on how adventurous you are, although you cannot take quests inside Moria until you're level 50, so I don't know if you'd want to do that. But if you have a character and you can get them their LIs, even if they can't go into Moria, they can be turning in task items for that area if you have other alts that have them. But almost every quest that you're doing in Moria is going to have legendary XP on it. So what I did, because I was like at level 42, 43, and was like, oh man, I'm going to miss the bat and I'm going to miss the pony, and I haven't been doing work. I took my little hobbit lawnmower, my hobbit champion, and did her all the way through Moria, doing all the quests that you can. Every one that had any sort of legendary XP, just kind of, I've done that so many times I can kind of do it on cruise control. But also any of your in-game characters that have any sort of task items they can turn in, make sure that they're turning in tasks every day. They also get XP on their legendary XP, even if they've already maxed their leveling and their items and their rep. Have them turn them in, because anybody that has a legendary item and can turn in on level tasks, you're going to be pushing that rewards track more and more and more. Now, I didn't try using any of like XP boosts from my VIP. I just didn't even really think to do that. I mean, I had some like enhanced XP stuff that was stuck in my vault, and I put that on the champion that was going through. I'm sorry, you said you were only 10 levels away from the painted pony. I hope you made it, because that had reset this past week when the day after the, or actually no, I think they went ahead and did it on the day of. They ended up releasing it, but the rewards track was resetting. That was the Virtue XP. My apologies. But yeah, I hope you made it to the painted pony. But that's my suggestion to you. Make sure you're turning in those tasks on anybody that has an LI so they can push that forward, even if you're not playing the character normally. If you're got your level 140 and it's got all of this stuff, they could go back and maybe do deeding to help with your Virtue XPs and save all the junk that drops when you're killing mobs, because that way you can send them to those alts that have the LIs, turn in those tasks. And like I said, take somebody through Moria. It really helped.
All right. The other thing to note is that there is such a thing as an IXP bonus item in there, and those could be used by capped players because most XP bonus items aren't usable by capped players, but IXP bonus items are usable by capped players. That's something to note. And I noticed that when I was going through this last season here, where I was running a lot of skirmishes for a couple of characters, trying to get them the Skirmisher Middle Earth title, going through all that stuff, and I was just zipping through it. I think I got through the last season. I think it took me about a month, I think, in order to reach 100 on there, and I wasn't even trying.
More ideas. Yay.
Yeah, so I found that doing a lot of skirmishes and things like that seem to have done it because during the skirmish, every kill you make is going to be adding it to the item in there. Then finishing the skirmish itself gives you IXP on there. So yeah, I think that all worked pretty well for me on finishing up this last round. And the previous season from that, I think I had a lot of trouble. I don't think I even got anywhere near finishing on season 2. I don't think I got anywhere near finishing it. Season 3, I just ripped through it, and I think it was because I was running one character through Gundabad, plus I was doing lots and lots of skirmishes and missions and the like on there. I think between the two of them, they gave me quite an amount on getting to the reward track. As for what is the most efficient way, well, I have not done a study on that. Now, the second question has to do with the new legendary item system and about $4.99 versus $4.80. Right now, the cap is $4.80. So yeah, there is no way to get past $4.80 at this point. I would presume that at some point they are going to raise that cap. I have no idea when they plan to do it or anything like this. Obviously, by the time when they raise the level cap, it's going to go up all the way to $4.99. But I don't know if they're planning on it at any time before then.
Yeah, that they're future proofing. If you look at the traceries, they say minimum level 131, maximum level 150, which we aren't at right now. So
right. So I'm going to suspect that we are going to see a raise in this cap sometime when they add the next update after this. By the next update, I mean the next major update. I think when they have that, they might bring it up to 490. And I think that the 490 through 499 might wait until the next level cap increase, whenever that is. I guess that'll probably be the next expansion after this one, since the next one is probably going to be, I think we've all been joking that maybe it's going to be in Harad or something like this, and that most likely is going to have a level cap increase if we do go down there. So yes, 480 is the current cap that you can put onto there. And as for your third question, is there anything in in-game to spend all those skirmish medallions on? No, absolutely not. Right now, I cannot think of anything especially useful to endgame players, especially when they took away the reputation accelerators.
Yeah, because my first thought was reputation, and I was like, oh, but you can't do that anymore.
Right, because you're obviously not going to get anything out of getting landscape soldier tokens, considering how right now skirmish soldiers aren't exactly at their most potent, I guess is
I mean,
a
you could get some
diplomatic way of
kicks and
putting it.
giggles and make other people smile, maybe, by the antics of your... No, they're not even that funny.
Yeah.
They just run around healing each other if you get a bunch of herbalists out, but that's about all I've seen them accomplish.
Yeah. They might be useful if you were in a low level zone deeding, and maybe an archer will be helpful if you're out on the landscape in that case, because you might be firing at one mob, they might be firing at another mob, and a bit faster if, as I say, if you're in a lower level zone deeding. But outside of that, I can't think of much use for them. So yes, right now, not much you can do with the medallions at higher levels. We are hoping that they will go back and add something that we could do, but it's been since Moria was the last. Actually, even before Moria, I would say when we went to the Waste, I think it was the last time that they updated the loot list for skirmishes in general. So yeah, don't hold your breath.
You know, even if they just added cosmetics, though, that would be pretty cool. Or housing items.
Yeah, even that would be nice
Even
if
that
they.
would be better than, like, oh, there's nothing you can do. I mean, I guess it's nice to be able to start with a good skirmish soldier on a new character, but...
Yeah. If you would like to send us an email, you can send it to podcast at loachplayers.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. The Players Alliance at Players Alliance, Loach Players at Loach Players, or Rendis at Rendis, Pineleaf at Pineleaf Needle, Sans Winda at Sans Winda, and Guarendis at Guarendis. The Players Alliance has two shows on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have the Loach Players News, and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You can join us for our shows at loachplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight. And this is Pilot Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.